Welcome to episode 251, David Green Religious Selfmade Billionaire 10 Lessons. This is an outline of episode 251. Lesson number 1, start with God, follow the Bible, not maximizing profit.
Another way that Green takes care of his employees is by limiting the number of hours that the store stays open in the evenings. For example, as you can see here, Monday through Saturday, it's open until only 8 p.m. Hobby Lobby is also closed on Sundays to allow time for family and worship.
It kind of frightened us when we knew God was speaking to us about closing on Sunday, because it is per hour the busiest day of the week. But we knew God wanted us to close.
Sharing the gospel, Green says, is the driving force behind his quest for success in the marketplace.
I would like to know that we have brought as many people to know Christ as we possibly can. We hope to continue to just grow our company. As long as there's someone on this earth that doesn't know Jesus Christ, we have a job to do.
Lesson number 2, the purpose of wealth.
So tell us exactly what you think the message of your life is.
Wealth is more than just money. It's about values. We want to carry that down from generation to generation, to have a legacy that exceeds us by many generations.
Lesson number 3, start with family, using child labor and slave labor.
And so in 1970, we borrowed $600, and we started making these little frames in our garage. And we would sell them we had a salesman that was paid on commission that would sell those little frames. Our boys were 7 and 9, and we paid them 7 cents a piece. That on the living room table, they would put these frames together. They made them for 7 cents. And Barbara worked the first 5 years with no pay at all. So we've been accused of really starting our business on the backs of slave labor and child labor. And
Lesson number 4, start with the fad, picture frames in the 1970s.
And in 1970, while working for TG&Y, we started our business. Actually, at that time, ladies were taking little picture frames, 1 inch by 1.5 inch, and 2 by 3, 4 by 5. There's about 6 different sizes that we made. And we put little canvas in them, and they would paint on these small canvases, and they would put a grouping of them on the wall. They don't do that now. That happened then. But it happened just overnight, but there really wasn't any suppliers for that. So we said, we'll make those things and sell them to the Ma and Pa's.
Lesson number 5, start part-time. From 1970 to 1975, Green continued to work as store manager of TG&Y.
We borrowed the $600, and it took me a year to pay it back. I thought, hey, we made all of our payments to the bank, and the bank was Penn Square Bank, made national news. They were loaning tens of millions of dollars to Ollie's. And in 1972, 2 years after we started, our love was retail. That was what I knew, and so we opened our first store in 1972, 2 years after we started making the frames in the garage. And the store was only 300 square feet, which is the size of a small living room. And the back part of it was 300 square feet is where we made the frames. So as we made the frames, sew them, we would take the money and put it in inventory at the front of the store. So that was our first store in 1972. In 1975, Barbara had done a good job working and building the company up to the point that I could leave TG&Y. So 5 years after we started, in 1972, I left to open the second store. I was earning $26,000 a year for TG&Y, and I came over for $13,000 a year. So,
lesson number 6, how to survive 1980 oil bust in Oklahoma. Green almost lost his entire business, which was 12 stores at the time. His solution, God wants him to be debt-free.
Big old oak desk, so I think the world was falling in on me. And all that cocky stuff that I talked about, that ended at that time, because up to 1980, everything I touched turned to green, but I saw that I couldn't do it by myself. And it's sort of like God telling me.
My oldest son said, Dad, it's not you we're depending on God. He started talking to me about debt and how God does not want us in debt.
Lesson number 7, start with a calling. He hated school, but he loved retail.
But when I was a junior and senior in high school, school was one of my probably worst classes. And I'm sorry, I didn't like school, and so I took a class called Distributive Education, where you could get out of class and you actually got credit for working. So I'm making money getting credits for that, so it fit me well. I loved it. At 11 o'clock, I was at work, and I would work probably more than 40 hours a week my junior and senior year. And because we didn't have a lot in my junior and senior year, I spent a lot of my money buying furniture for my parents. And that's how I spent my junior and senior year.
You know, he couldn't be a preacher, and Grandma wanted 6 preachers, and he wished he could have been a preacher, but that wasn't his calling, and so he had to go where his gifting was, and he loved the retail business.
Lesson number 8. The secrets to expansion is the warehouse. Green learned this from TG&Y.
One of the best things that I pulled from TG&Y was their warehousing. Although they didn't go far enough, they probably never had more than maybe 12,000, 15,000 items in the warehouse. We carry 60,000 in the warehouse. And so to have what was in the warehouse, to just be able to buy it and get it within the next 3 or 4 days, that was incredible, the way that worked. And so that was one of the greatest things that I thought they had working for them. And so we took that and just expanded upon it.
This is the warehouse of Hobby Lobby in Oklahoma City, where he supplied inventory to 800 Hobby Lobby stores. Lesson number 9. It took 50+ years to build a retail empire. David Green was a retail prodigy. In 1965, he became the youngest store manager at TG&Y.
At the age of 21, I got my first store, and I remember when I got my first store, and you got to remember, we came from picking cotton, and so think about picking cotton to being a store manager at 21. That was like a big, big deal. You know, I got some keys on my belt here, and I can open the store. And
Lesson number 10, giving back. There are 4 ways. First, twice the minimum wage, then family hours, and close on Sunday, and then the Museum of Bible.
This year, the company raised the minimum wage for full-time employees to $11 per hour, 52% above the federal minimum wage.
Legislation that required the federal minimum wage to be $15.
I don't think that would be fair. I think that would be, that needs to be up to the very businesses.
Competition led you to pay $15 an hour?
No, it wasn't, but we decided to do this on our own, but we...
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and leave your questions and comments below. Wishing everyone peace and prosperity.